Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the sun-scorched sands of ancient Mali, where you're about to join a caravan teetering on the edge of the Sahara. Picture it. The horizon shimmers like a fever dream, dunes stretching endlessly, and you're standing at a dusty crossroads where camel hooves churn the earth. The air smells of sweat and spices, and somewhere a trader's shout cuts through the heat. You're here to master the desert's trade routes, but let's be real, you probably won't survive the first sandstorm without a few tricks. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're at the edge of the desert, where ancient Mali's caravan routes begin. It's the 13th century, and you're in a bustling outpost town. Think of it as the medieval equivalent of a truck stop, but with more camels and fewer neon signs. The town hums with life. Traders haggle over salt slabs. Women balance clay jars on their heads, and kids dart through the chaos, chasing scrawny goats. You're not just a tourist here. You're a novice trader, itching to join the caravans that snake across the Sahara to swap Mali's gold for the world's treasures. The crossroads you're standing at isn't just a patch of dirt. It's the heartbeat of an empire. Mali, at its peak, controlled trade routes that made it richer than most European kingdoms. Its gold fueling everything from Timbuktu's libraries to distant palaces in Cairo. Your first challenge is figuring out where you fit in this chaos. Around you, caravans are forming, each a small army of camels, traders, and hired muscle. You spot a grizzled caravan leader, his turban frayed, but his eyes sharp, barking orders in a mix of Manda and Arabic. He's sizing you up, and you can tell he's not impressed. "Newcomers don't last," he mutters, spitting into the sand. You're tempted to argue, but the truth is, the Sahara's no joke. Historians estimate that Mali's trade networks moved thousands of tons of goods annually. Gold, salt, ivory, even ostrich feathers. But the desert claimed plenty of lives along the way. One wrong turn, one empty water skin, and you're a sun-bleached skeleton. Let's talk about this crossroads though, because it's weirder than it looks. You notice strange markers in the ground, piles of stones, some carved with symbols you can't read. These aren't just decorations, they're ancient GPS, set by traders who knew the Sahara's shifting dunes could erase a path overnight. A quirky tidbit. Some traders swore by tying bells to their lead camels, claiming the jingle scared off desert spirits. You're not sure if that's genius or just superstition, but you're already eyeing the nearest camel with suspicion. Historians still argue whether these stone markers were purely practical or held some ritual meaning. Were they offerings to gods or just really old road signs? No one's cracked that code yet. You wander through the outpost, trying to soak it all in. The sensory overload is real. The sun bakes your skin. The air tastes of dust, and every step kicks up grit that sticks to your sweat. You pass a stall where a woman's selling dried dates, her hands moving so fast you barely see them. "Eat these, or you'll faint by noon," she says, half laughing. You buy a handful, mostly because she looks like she could outlast the desert itself. Nearby, a blacksmith hammers out iron tools, the clang mixing with the low bleat of camels. You're starting to get why this place feels alive. It's where Mali's wealth begins, where ambition meets sand. But let's not romanticize it too much. You're nervous, and you should be. The crossroads is where you decide your fate. Join a caravan and risk the Sahara, or stay here and scrape by selling goat milk. You overhear two traders arguing about which route's safer, the one through the Takaza salt mines, or the longer loop via Walata. One guy's waving a stick, insisting, Tagaza's cursed too many ghosts. You're not sure if he's serious, but it's not exactly boosting your confidence. Here's a mainstream fact to ground you. Mali's trade system was so sophisticated that it drew merchants from as far as the Mediterranean, with records of caravans carrying up to 12,000 camels at a time. That's a lot of hump to manage. Before you commit, you take a moment to breathe. You're standing at the edge of something massive, a network that shaped half the medieval world. The crossroads isn't just a place, it's a gamble. You glance at the horizon, where the desert waits like a sleeping giant. Somewhere out there, gold and salt are changing hands, and you're about to chase them. But first, you need to survive the prep. Loading camels, dodging scams, and maybe not offending that caravan leader who's AEE. You're still at the dusty crossroads of ancient Mali, but now it's time to get serious. The caravan's forming, and you're elbow deep in the chaos of loading goods for the Sahara trek. Camels grunt under the weight of bulging sacks, their breath hot and sour as you weave between them. The air's thick with dust and shouted insults. Turns out, traders aren't exactly patient when you accidentally bump their salt slabs. You're a novice, remember, so every move feels like a test. The caravan leader, that turbaned grump from earlier, is watching you fumble with a rope, his smirk saying, "You'll be camel food by tomorrow." You're determined to prove him wrong, but the Sahara's got other plans. Loading a caravan is no small feat. You're hauling goods that define Mali's wealth. Gold dust packed in leather pouches, ivory tusks lashed to wooden frames, and massive salt slabs that look like they could crush you. The salt's the real star here. Mined from deep in the desert, it's worth its weight in gold, sometimes more. You learn fast that a single slab, maybe 3 feet long, can feed a village or buy a horse. A mainstream fact to anchor you. By the 13th century, Mali's salt trade was so vital that it supplied much of West Africa, with traders hauling millions of pounds across the Sahara yearly. You're manhandling one of these slabs now, your arms screaming, and you can't help but wonder who decided this was a good idea. The quirkier side of this? You notice some traders slipping tiny amulets into their cargo, bits of bone or cloth tied with string. "Keeps the jinn away," one guy whispers, like it's the most obvious thing in the world. You're not sure if he's messing with you, but you're tempted to snag an amulet just in case. The desert's got a reputation for weirdness, and you're not taking chances. Historians still argue whether these charms were religious tokens or just good luck vibes. Some say they were tied to animist beliefs. Others think they were pure pragmatism, like a medieval insurance policy. You're learning the ropes, literally. Tying cargo to a camel's saddle is like wrestling a grumpy toddler. The beast you're working on, let's call her Grumpy Humps, keeps trying to bite your arm. You dodge, barely, and a nearby trader laughs so hard he nearly drops his water skin. "She likes you," he cackles. You mutter something about needing hazard pay, but you're starting to get the hang of it. The trick is balance. Too much weight on one side, and Grumpy Humps will tip over mid-June. You're also packing lighter goods, cola nuts, dried fish, even bolts of dyed cloth that shimmer in the sun. Each item's a piece of Mali's trade puzzle, headed for markets in Timbuktu or beyond. The sensory overload's intense. Your hands are raw from coarse rope, your nose stings from camel funk, and the sun's turning your neck into jerky. You pause to chug from a water skin, but the water's warm and tastes like leather. A woman nearby, stacking baskets of millet, tosses you a dried date. "Chew slow," she says. Keeps you sane. You nod, grateful, and pop it in your mouth. It's sweet, sticky, and honestly the best thing you've tasted all day. You're starting to see why these traders are so tough. They've got to be, to wrangle this chaos before the desert even starts. But let's not sugarcoat it. You're nervous, and the stakes are high. One loose knot, one overloaded camel, and you could lose everything. You overhear two traders arguing about weight limits. One's insisting his ivory's fine, the other's waving a stick, yelling, "You'll kill us all." You're not sure who's right, but it's a reminder among the chaos. It's a reminder that precision matters. You're also dodging scams. Some traders try to pass off low-grade salt as premium, and you're not falling for it. You're learning to spot the good stuff. Clean white slabs over the gritty grey ones. It's like picking produce, but with higher stakes. You're almost done loading when the caravan leader claps you on the shoulder, hard. "Not bad, rookie," he grunts, which you take as high praise. You're exhausted, but there's a weird pride in seeing Grumpy Humps ready to roll, her cargo secure. The caravan's nearly set, a long line of camels stretching into the distance. You glance at the horizon, where the Sahara waits, vast and merciless. You're one step closer to mastering this trade, but the real test is coming. For now, you wipe the sweat from your brow and double-check your knots. No way you're letting Grumpy Humps dump your cargo in the sand. You're finally moving, trudging alongside the caravan as it lurches into the Sahara's heart. The crossroads are a distant memory now, and you're navigating under a sky so vast it feels like it's swallowing you whole. It's night, thank goodness. The desert's cooler, but the darkness is thick, broken only by the flicker of torches and the soft jangle of camel bells. You're learning to guide your caravan by stars and the oral maps passed down through generations of Mali traders. Every step feels like a gamble, and you're hyper-aware that one wrong move could strand you in this endless sea of sand. The caravan leader's up ahead, muttering to himself, probably questioning why he let a rookie like you tag along. The stars are your lifeline. You tilt your head back, squinting at constellations that Mali traders have used for centuries. There's the scorpion's tail, low on the horizon, and the Three Sisters, a tight cluster that points roughly north. You're no astronomer, but you're picking it up fast, mostly because getting lost out here means you're buzzard bait. A mainstream fact to ground you. Mali's traders were renowned for their celestial navigation, using star patterns to cross the Sahara with precision that rivaled European mariners of the same era. You're clutching a rough sketch one of the older traders gave you, a scrap of leather with dots and lines that's supposed to be a star map. It's not exactly Google Maps, but it's all you've got. Here's the quirky bit. Some traders swear by singing to the stars. You catch a guy humming a low rhythmic tune, claiming it keeps the sky awake. You're half convinced he's just bored, but you try humming along. And honestly, it's kind of soothing. The desert's so quiet at night that every sound, camel grunts, your own footsteps, feels amplified. Historians still argue whether these songs were navigational aids, mnemonic devices for remembering star patterns, or just a way to stay sane in the void. Whatever the case, you're humming now, and it's keeping you from freaking out about the darkness. Navigating isn't just about stars, though. You're also relying on oral maps, stories and rhymes that describe landmarks like a lone acacia tree or a rock shaped like a sleeping lion. The caravan leader recites one now, his voice low. Follow the sisters till the crooked thorn, then east at the lion's jaw. You're trying to memorize it, but it's like learning a nursery rhyme in a language you barely speak. You trip over a dune, nearly face-planting, and a trader behind you snickers. "City feet," he teases. You shoot him a look, but you're too tired to clap back. Besides, he's not wrong. Your legs are screaming, and you're only a few hours in. The sensory details hit hard. Your sandals sink into the sand, each step a slow suck of effort. The air's crisp, smelling faintly of dust and something sharp, like dried herbs. Your torch sputters, casting shadows that make every dune look like a lurking bandit. You're carrying a water skin slung over your shoulder, and it sloshes with every step, a constant reminder to ration it. You take a sip,
warm, gritty, but it's life. A woman trader nearby, her face half hidden by a scarf, nods at you. "Pace yourself," she says. "The desert's patient." You're not sure if that's advice or a warning, but you nod back, grateful for any wisdom. Let's be real, you're scared. The Sahara's not just big, it's indifferent. You've heard stories of entire caravans vanishing, swallowed by storms or bad routes. You're sticking close to the group, hyper-aware of the camel bell's jingle, like a lifeline. The leader's oral map mentions a checkpoint tomorrow, an oasis if you're lucky. But for now, it's just you, the stars, and the endless sand. You're starting to understand why traders are so obsessive about their routes. One misread star, one forgotten rhyme, and you're done. You joke to yourself that this is the worst GPS ever, but deep down, you're in awe of how these traders pull it off. You're settling into the rhythm now, step by step, star by star. The caravan's a living thing, a chain of trust between you, the traders, and the camels like good old grumpy humps who's plodding along with your cargo. You pat her flank, half expecting a nip, but she just snorts. Progress. The night stretches on, and you're humming that star song again, letting it carry you forward. The Sahara's testing you, but you're holding your own, for now. You're deep in the Sahara now, the caravan plodding through a moonlit sea of dunes. The stars still guide you, but tonight's about the trade that keeps this whole operation alive, salt for gold. You're at a makeshift trading post, a cluster of tents where Mali traders meet nomadic middlemen to swap goods. The air buzzes with haggling, and you're right in the middle, trying to exchange a salt slab for a pouch of gold dust without getting fleeced. The caravan leader's nowhere to be seen, probably napping, leaving you to fend for yourself. Your palms are sweaty, and not just from the heat. One bad deal, and you're walking home broke. Salt's the currency here, and you're hauling a slab that's heavier than you'd like to admit. It's not just any salt, mined from Tahaza's brutal salt pans. It's pure, white, and prized across West Africa. You set it down, wincing as your back protests, and a wiry trader with a gap-toothed grin sizes it up. Good salt, he says, but his eyes say he's planning to lowball you. You're learning fast. Salt was Mali's economic backbone, with records showing it traded at near equal value to gold in the 13th century. A mainstream fact. Mali's salt gold trade fueled its empire, making it a global economic powerhouse, with merchants carrying salt slabs over 1,000 miles to markets as far as the Mediterranean. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some traders insist on tasting the salt before buying. Your gap-toothed friend licks your slab like it's a lollipop, nodding sagely. "Sweet edge," he mutters, as if that's a thing. You're trying not to laugh, but you're also wondering if you should lick it too, just to look like you know what you're doing. Historians still argue whether this tasting was about quality control or some ritual trust building. Did it prove the salt wasn't tampered with? Or was it just dessert showmanship? No one's sure, but you're not licking anything until you get that gold. The gold's the prize, and you're eyeing a leather pouch the trader's dangling. It's heavy with dust, Mali's famous invisible gold, mined from rivers, and so fine it slips through your fingers. You open it, letting a pinch glitter in the torchlight. It's mesmerizing, but you're no fool. You've heard of traders mixing sand into gold pouches to cheat newbies like you. You sift it carefully, earning a grudging nod from the trader. The haggling starts, and it's intense. He wants 2 slabs for 1 pouch. You counter with 1 for 1, channeling every market scene you've ever seen. "Take it, or I walk," you bluff, hoping he doesn't call it. He laughs, but you're holding your ground. The sensory details are overwhelming. The tent smells of sweat and smoky fires, with a faint metallic tang from the gold. Your salt slab's edges are sharp. cutting into your palms as you shift it. Camels groan outside, their bells clinking, while traders shout in a mix of Mande, Berber, and who knows what else. You're thirsty, your water skin dangerously low, but you can't break focus. A woman nearby, trading ivory, shoots you a look that says, "Don't mess this up." You nod, pretending you've got this, but your heart's racing. You're starting to get why salt and gold are worth dying for. They're not just goods, they're power. Let's not kid ourselves. You're out of your depth. The trader's grin is unnerving, and you're second-guessing every move. You remember that date seller from the crossroads, her advice to chew slow, echoing in your head. You take a breath, slowing down, and spot a flaw in his pouch's stitching, maybe a sign it's been tampered with. You point it out, and his grin falters. Gotcha. You settle on one slab for a slightly smaller pouch, which feels like a win. You're not sure if you've been had, but the weight of the gold in your hand is real. You step out of the tent, clutching your prize. The caravan's gearing up to move again, and you're buzzing with adrenaline. You pat Grumpy Humps, who's carrying your remaining salt, and she doesn't try to bite you. Progress. The desert stretches ahead, but you're starting to feel like a real trader. That salt-licking weirdo's still in your head though, and you're half tempted to try it yourself, just to see what the fuss is about. For now, you tuck the gold away and fall back in line, the caravan's rhythm pulling you deeper into the Sahara. You're bone-tired, trudging through the Sahara with the caravan, when a speck of green breaks the endless dunes. It's an oasis, a rare waterhole where the caravans pause to rest. You collapse in the shade of a scraggly palm, your legs screaming from days of walking. Camels sprawl around you, chewing lazily, while traders sprawl in makeshift camps, their laughter mingling with the splash of water. This is your first real break since the crossroads, and you're soaking it in, literally, as you splash your face from a shallow pool. The caravan leader's nearby, sharpening a knife, and for once he's not glaring at you. You're starting to feel like you belong, but the desert's still got plenty of ways to humble you. Oases like this are lifelines. You're at a small one, just a cluster of palms and a spring-fed pool, but it's enough to keep the caravan alive. You notice traders refilling water skins, carefully rationing every drop. A mainstream fact: oases were critical to Mali's trade routes, with some, like the wells of Walata, supporting caravans of thousands of camels in the 13th century. Without these waterholes, the Sahara would have been a death sentence. You're grateful for this one, even if the water tastes like dirt and smells faintly of camel. You're not complaining. Your throat's so dry you'd drink puddle water if it meant surviving. Here's the quirky bit. Some traders are tossing pebbles into the pool, muttering what sounds like a prayer. You ask a grizzled woman nearby, and she shrugs. "Thanks to the water spirits," she says, like it's obvious. You're not sure if she's serious, but you toss a pebble anyway, just to hedge your bets. Historians still argue whether these rituals were tied to local animist beliefs or practical gestures to mark safe water sources. Did they appease gods or just signal this pool's clean? Either way, you're not risking bad juju in the middle of nowhere. The oasis is a sensory reset. The air's cooler here, with a faint sweetness from overripe dates littering the ground. You grab one, brushing off the sand, and it's so sweet it makes your teeth ache. The palm fronds rustle overhead, a soft whisper against the desert's silence. Your sandals are crusted with sand, and you're tempted to dunk your feet in the pool, but a stern look from another trader stops you. "Feet stay out," he grumbles. You get it. Nobody wants your foot funk in their drinking water. You settle for wiping your face again, the cool water a brief heaven against your sunburned skin. Resting's not just about water, though. You're helping unload Grumpy Humps, giving her a break from the salt slabs and gold pouches. She's surprisingly calm, munching on a thorny bush like it's gourmet. You're starting to like her, even if she still eyes you like you owe her money. Traders are swapping stories, and you catch fragments, tales of lost caravans, bandit raids, or that one guy who swore he saw a desert mermaid. You're not sure what's true, but it's entertaining. You joke to yourself that this is the medieval version of a truck stop diner, just with worse coffee and more camels. Let's be honest, you're exhausted. The oasis is a relief, but it's temporary. You're hyper-aware that the caravan's only halfway through its route, and the Sahara's not done testing you. You overhear two traders debating the next leg. One wants to push for Timbuktu, the other's worried about sandstorms. You're not sure who to trust, but the word sandstorm makes your stomach lurch. You're also noticing how everyone's rationing food. Dried millet cakes, tough as leather, are the main meal. You chew one slowly, remembering that date seller's advice to chew slow, and it helps. Barely. You're settling in, though. You help a trader repair a torn water skin, earning a nod of approval. You're not just a rookie anymore. You're pulling your weight. The oasis feels like a pause button, a moment to breathe before the desert's next challenge. You lie back, staring at the stars through the palm fronds, the same ones you used to navigate. They're brighter here somehow, and you're starting to understand why traders love and hate this life. You pat grumpy Humps, who's dozing nearby, and whisper, "We got this." She snorts, unimpressed, but you're feeling bold. For now, you rest. The oasis is calm, wrapping around you like a blanket. You're back on the move, the oasis a fading memory as the caravan snakes through the Sahara's dunes. The sun's high now, baking the sand, and you're in the thick of a trading hub, not a city, but a chaotic roadside market where Mali's traders meet nomads and merchants from beyond. You're bartering, trying to swap some of your goods in a swirl of languages you barely understand. The air's alive with shouts, the clink of metal, and the stench of sweat-soaked cloth. You're juggling your salt slabs and gold dust, hoping to score supplies for the next leg. But every trader here seems to have a sharper tongue than you. The caravan leader's off haggling for himself, leaving you to navigate this linguistic maze solo. This market's a melting pot. You hear Mande, Berber, Arabic, and snippets of something you can't place. Maybe Songhai or Tuareg. Mali's trade networks were linguistic powerhouses, with traders acting as cultural bridges across West Africa. A mainstream fact, by the 13th century, Mali's markets facilitated trade across thousands of miles, with multilingual traders enabling exchanges from the Sahara to the Mediterranean. You're trying to keep up, gesturing wildly to a nomad who's eyeing your salt. He responds in broken Mandi, and you're pretty sure he just called your salt lumpy. You're not fluent, but you're learning to read faces. His smirk says he's testing you. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some traders seal deals with a handshake and a shared sip of bitter tea. You're offered a clay cup by a wiry merchant, and the tea's so strong it makes your eyes water. "Good trade, good tea," he says, grinning. You choke it down, not wanting to offend, but you're wondering if this is a deal or a prank. Historians still argue whether this tea ritual was about trust or just a way to stay awake in the heat. Did it symbolize alliance, or was it caffeine-fueled haggling fuel? You're leaning toward the latter as your heart races from the stuff. Bartering's a sensory circus. Your hands are gritty from handling salt, and the gold pouch at your belt feels heavier with every deal. The market smells of spices, cinnamon maybe, mixed with camel dung and smoke from a nearby fire. You're dodging elbows, trying not to trip over baskets of kola nuts or bolts of dyed cloth. A woman trader, her scarf bright with indigo, catches your eye and offers dried fish for a sliver of your gold. You hesitate. She's sharp, and you're not sure if her fish is worth it. "Think fast," she says. And you cave, handing over a pinch of dust. She winks, and you're pretty sure you just got schooled. Let's be real. You're floundering. The languages swirl around you, and you're piecing together deals with half-understood words and wild gestures. You're starting to get why traders are so quick-witted. It's survival. You remember that pebble you tossed at the oasis, hoping for good luck, and you're wishing for some of that now. A trader nearby's arguing over ivory, his voice rising, and you're glad it's not you in the crossfire. You're also noticing how everyone's watching everyone else. Trust is thin here, and a bad deal could tank your reputation. You're getting better, though. You swap a small salt slab for a sack of millet and a new water skin, feeling like you've won a small victory. A nomad tries to shortchange you on some cloth, but you catch his sleight of hand and call him out. He laughs, impressed, and throws in an extra yard. You're starting to enjoy this, even if your head's spinning. You joke to yourself that you're one bad deal away from starring in a medieval infomercial for how to lose everything in the Sahara. But you're holding your own, and that's something. The market's winding down, and you're packing up, grumpy humps loaded with your new goods. You pat her flank, and she doesn't snap. Progress. The caravan's ready to move, and you're falling back into line, the market's chaos fading behind you. You're clutching that bitter tea's memory, wondering if it's why you're still awake. The desert looms ahead, but you're sharper now, your trader's tongue getting quicker. You're not just surviving, you're starting to play the game. You're plodding through the Sahara, the caravan's rhythm, a steady pulse of camel steps and creaking cargo, when the world turns hostile. A sandstorm hits, fast and furious, like the desert decided to throw a tantrum. The sky darkens, sand stings your face, and visibility drops to nothing. You're scrambling to secure Grumpy Humps's load, her panicked grunts mixing with the trader's shouts. The caravan leader's voice cuts through the chaos, barking orders, but you can barely hear him over the wind's howl. You're in survival mode, trying to keep your wits and your cargo intact as the Sahara reminds you who's boss. Sandstorms are no myth in these parts. You're learning firsthand why Mali traders dreaded them. The wind's a living thing, shoving you sideways, clogging your nose with grit. A mainstream fact: sandstorms could halt or destroy caravans, with 13th century records noting losses of entire trade expeditions to the Sahara's sudden tempests. You're tying a scarf over your face, copying the traders, but it's like breathing through a dust bag. Your eyes water, and every step feels like wading through a river of sand. You're clinging to Grumpy Humps's reins, praying she doesn't bolt. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some traders believe sandstorms are stirred by angry desert spirits. A guy nearby, hunched against the wind, mutters about Jinn riding the gusts. He's tying a knotted cord to his camel's saddle, claiming it'll calm the storm. You're skeptical, but you're also desperate, so you mimic him, looping a spare rope around Grumpy Humps's gear. Historians still argue whether these rituals were superstition or psychological coping. Did traders really believe in storm spirits, or was it just a way to feel in control? You're not sure, but that knot's giving you a shred of hope. The sensory assault is relentless. Sands in your mouth, your ears, even your eyelashes. The wind roars like a freight train, and the air tastes bitter, like burnt dust. You're squinting, barely making out the trader ahead of you, his silhouette fading in the haze. Your hands burn from gripping the reins, and your waterskin's buried somewhere under a pile of shifting cargo. You're tempted to dig for it, but stopping now's a bad idea. A woman trader, her turban flapping, grabs your arm. "Stay low, keep moving," she yells. You nod, grateful, and hunch forward, following her lead. Survival's all about instinct now. You're helping the caravan form a tight circle, camels kneeling to create a living windbreak. You're shoving salt slabs against Grumpy Humps's side, praying they don't tumble into the dunes. The leader's shouting to cover the cargo with cloths, and you're fumbling to drape a tarp over your goods. You're remembering that tea-sipping merchant from the market, his calm confidence, and wishing you had half his nerve. A trader nearby's cursing as his cola nuts scatter, and you'd laugh if you weren't so terrified. You joke to yourself that this is the worst beach day ever, but the humour's thin. You're not alone in this mess, though. The caravan's a team now, traders helping traders. You pull a younger kid out of a sanddrift, and he mumbles thanks before diving back to his camel. You're starting to see why trust matters out here. One weak link, and everyone's done. The storm's peaking, but you're holding steady, checking Grumpy Hump's knots like your life depends on it. She's calmer now, maybe sensing you're not giving up. You're also noticing the storm's patterns. Gusts come in waves, giving brief moments to breathe. You're learning, fast, the wind's finally easing, the sand settling like a curtain dropping. You're coughing, spitting grit, but you're alive. The caravan's intact, though everyone's a mess, hair wild, cargo skewed. You check your gold pouch, still secure, and breathe a sigh. The leader claps you on the back, a rare grin cracking his face. "Not dead yet," he says. You grin back, too tired to reply. The desert's still out there, waiting, but you've survived its tantrum. You pat Grumpy Humps, who snorts like she's over it, and you're ready to move on, sand still crunching in your teeth. The sandstorm's behind you, its grit still clinging to your clothes, but the caravan's pushing deeper into the Sahara. You're on high alert now, clutching Grumpy Humps's reins as you scan the dunes for trouble. This leg of the journey's about protecting Mali's wealth, your gold dust, salt slabs, and other goods, from bandits who'd love to make a quick score. The sun's a relentless hammer, and every shadow feels like a threat. Traders are tense, their hands resting on curved daggers, and even the caravan leader's quieter, his eyes darting to the horizon. You're learning fast. Out here, your cargo's only yours if you can keep it. Banditry's a real danger on Mali's trade routes. You're hearing whispers of raids, swift attacks by desert nomads who vanish as fast as they strike. A mainstream fact. 13th century Mali traders faced constant threats from bandits, with some caravans hiring armed escorts to protect their gold and salt, which fueled the empire's economy. You're part of a well-armed group, but that doesn't ease the knot in your stomach. You're carrying a small knife, more for show than skill, and you're hoping you won't need to use it. The leader's paired you with a grizzled trader who smells like leather and bad decisions, and he's teaching you to spot signs of trouble, fresh tracks, odd shadows, or the glint of metal in the distance. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some traders swear by singing camels to ward off bandits. Your leather-scented mentor points to a camel decked with extra bells, claiming the loud jangle scares off raiders. They hate the noise, he grins, though you suspect it's more about alerting the caravan. You're skeptical, but tie a spare bell to Grumpy Hump's saddle, just in case. Historians still argue whether these bells were tactical or superstitious. Did they signal danger or just boost morale? You're not sure, but the jingling's oddly comforting, like a desert alarm system. The sensory overload's intense, your skin's tight from sunburn, and the air's so dry it crackles in your throat. Sand crunches underfoot, and the bell's clang mixes with the camel's low grumbles. You're sweating through your tunic, the gold pouch at your belt a heavy reminder of what's at stake. You spot a trader checking his cargo, muttering prayers over his salt slabs, and you're tempted to do the same. A woman nearby, her dagger gleaming, catches your eye. "Watch the ridges," she says, pointing to the dunes. You nod, scanning for movement, but all you see is sand shimmering like a mirage. Keeping the caravan safe's a group effort. You're learning to stay in formation, keeping grumpy humps close to the center where bandits are less likely to strike. The leader's got scouts riding ahead, their silhouettes barely visible against the dunes. You're also checking your cargo's knots, remembering that sandstorm's chaos and not wanting a repeat. Your mentor's telling stories of past raids, one where a trader scared off bandits by throwing cola nuts and yelling about curses. You laugh, half believing it, and joke to yourself that you'd probably just trip and faceplant if bandits showed up. Humor's keeping you sane, barely. Tension's high though. You're hyper-aware of every sound. A gust of wind, a camel's snort, and your hand keeps drifting to your knife. You're remembering that oasis pebble you tossed, hoping it's still working its magic. A scout returns, signaling all clear, and the caravan relaxes slightly. But you're not letting your guard down. You overhear two traders debating whether bandits are local nomads or desperate ex-traders. Either way, they're trouble. You're starting to get why trust is everything out here. One lazy guard, and your gold's gone. You're holding up though. You help a younger trader tighten his camel's load, earning a grateful nod. You're not just a rookie anymore. You're part of the caravan's muscle, however shaky. The dunes stretch endlessly, but you're focused, eyes on the ridges. Grumpy Humps jingles along, her bells a small defiance against the silence. You pat her, whispering, "Keep those bandits away, girl." She snorts, unimpressed, but you're feeling tougher. The Sahara's still watching, but you're ready. For now. You're still in the Sahara's grip, the caravan trudging through dunes that seem to shift just to spite you. The bandit scare's faded, but the tension lingers, and now you're gathered around a small fire at dusk, the air cooling as stars pricked the sky. A griot joined the caravan, a storyteller whose voice carries Mali's history in every cadence. You're sitting cross-legged on a woven mat, Grumpy Humps dozing nearby, as the griot spins tales of ancient caravans, lost treasures, and desert heroes. His words are slow, rhythmic, pulling you into a trance. The other traders are rapt, and even the caravan leader's listening, his usual scowl softened. You're not just resting, you're soaking in legends that make this brutal journey feel alive. Griots are Mali's living archives. They're not just entertainers, they're historians, poets and advisors, passing down oral traditions that shape the empire's identity. A mainstream fact, in the 13th century Mali, griots were central to society, memorizing genealogies, trade routes, and epic tales like the story of Sundiata, the empire's founder, which was recited across West Africa. You're hanging on the griot's every word as he describes a caravan that outsmarted a sandstorm by following a mystical bird. His voice dips and rises, mimicking the wind, and you're half convinced you see that bird in the fire's flicker. Here's the quirky tidbit. Griots sometimes weave insults into their tales to keep listeners sharp. The griot's eyeing you now, slipping in a line about a clumsy trader who tied knots like a child. The caravan laughs, and you're pretty sure he means you. Your rope skills back at the crossroads weren't exactly stellar. You grin, taking it in stride, but you're also wondering if he's got a point. Historians still argue whether these jabs were teaching tools or just griot showmanship. Did they build character or just keep the crowd awake? You're leaning toward both as you rub your rope-burned hands. The sensory details pull you deeper. The fire crackles, spitting sparks that dance against the dark. The air smells of smoke and dried millet with a faint tang of camel sweat. Your mat's rough, digging into your legs, but you're too caught up to care. The griot's kora, a harp-like instrument, hums softly, its strings plucking out a melody that feels like it's weaving the story itself. You're sipping warm water from your water skin, rationing it, and chewing a tough strip of dried fish from that market deal. It's not gourmet, but it's keeping you grounded. A trader nearby passes you a date, whispering, "For the story." You nod, popping it in your mouth, its sweetness cutting the desert's bitterness. Let's be honest, you're exhausted, and the griot's tales are both a gift and a challenge. They're soothing, but they're also reminding you how high the stakes are. Those legendary traders survived worse than you're facing, and you're barely keeping up. You're remembering that bandit scare, the way your hand hovered over your knife, and wondering if you'd make it into a griot's story or just be the clumsy rookie who tripped over a dune. You joke to yourself that you'd at least get a funny insult in the tale, but deep down, you want to be the hero. The griot's story shifts to a lost caravan, one that vanished chasing a mirage. You're hooked, but you're also noticing how the traders react. Some nod, others mutter prayers. It's a reminder that these stories aren't just entertainment. They're lessons, warnings, and pride all rolled into one. You're starting to get why griots are so revered. They make the desert's dangers feel conquerable. You're also catching how the caravan's bonding over this, sharing nods and quiet laughs. You help a trader stoke the fire, earning a grunt of thanks, and you're feeling more like part of the crew. The griot's winding down, his voice softer now, the chorus notes fading. You're leaning back, the stars above brighter than ever, and you're thinking about that mystical antibiotic bird, wondering if it's out there. Grumpy Humps snorts, breaking the spell, and you pat her, whispering, "You'd eat that bird, wouldn't you?" She ignores you, but you're smiling. The caravan's settling for the night, and you're ready to rest, the griot's tales echoing in your head. The Sahara's still waiting, but for now, you're carried by stories. The griot's tales still linger in your mind, but the caravan's back on the move, cutting through the Sahara's endless dunes. You're focused on the unsung heroes of this journey. The camels, especially your trusty Grumpy Humps, who's carrying your salt slabs and gold dust with a mix of stubbornness and loyalty. Today's about tending to these beasts, ensuring they survive the desert's grind. The sun's climbing, the air thick with heat, and you're sweating as you check Grumpy Humps's hooves and adjust her load. Traders around you are doing the same, muttering to their camels like old friends. The caravan leaders nearby inspecting a limping camel, and you're hoping your care keeps Grumpy Humps from the same fate. Camels are the backbone of Mali's trade. Without them, your gold and salt would be stuck at the crossroads. A mainstream fact: in the 13th century, Mali's caravans relied on dromedary camels, which could carry up to 500 pounds and survive weeks with minimal water, making them perfect for the Sahara's brutal routes. You're brushing sand from Grumpy Hump's flank, marvelling at her toughness. She's got a hump full of fat, not water like you once thought, and it's keeping her going. You're also checking her saddle, a wooden frame padded with cloth, making sure it's not rubbing her raw. She snorts, unimpressed, but lets you work. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some traders talk to their camels like therapists. You catch a guy whispering to his camel about a bad salt deal, as if the beast's taking notes. "You get it, don't you?" He sighs. You're trying not to laugh, but you're also guilty. Yesterday, you told Grumpy Humps about that griot's insult. Historians still argue whether this camel chatter was practical or emotional. Did it calm the animals or just the traders? You're leaning toward both as you murmur, "We're doing okay, right?" to Grumpy Humps. She flicks an ear, which you take as agreement. The sensory details are vivid. Your hands are rough from handling coarse camel hair, and the air smells of dust and that distinct camel musk. Think sweaty socks meets old leather. The sand's hot underfoot, seeping through your sandals, and Grumpy Humps's bells jingle softly, a reminder of that bandit scare tactic. You're pouring a trickle of water into a leather trough for her, rationing carefully, and she slurps it up, splashing your tunic.
A trader nearby tosses you a handful of dried beans for the camels, saying, "Keeps 'em happy." You mix them with thorny scrub, and Grumpy Humps munches like it's a delicacy. Let's be real, camel care's exhausting. You're dodging her tail, which swats like a whip, and checking her hooves for cracks, sand's brutal on them. You're remembering that sandstorm, how Grumpy Humps knelt through it, and you're grateful she's still standing. A trader's yelling about a camel with a sore leg, and you're praying it's not contagious. You're also noticing how the caravan's rhythm depends on these animals. One sick camel, and everyone slows. You joke to yourself that Grumpy Humps is the real boss here, not the caravan leader. She'd probably agree. You're getting the hang of it, though. You spot a loose strap on Grumpy Humps's saddle and tighten it, earning a grudging lack of bite. High praise. You're also helping a younger trader hoist feed bags, sharing a nod of camaraderie. The caravan's a team, and camel care's where that shows. You're starting to see why traders treat these beasts like family. They're the difference between profit and ruin. You're also checking your cargo, making sure the gold pouch and salt slabs are secure. That market tea's bitter memory lingers, keeping you sharp. The day's wearing on, and you're ready to move again. You give Grumpy Humps a final pat, whispering, "Don't let me down, okay?" She snorts, as if to say, "You're the weak link." You're smiling though, feeling tougher. The dunes loom ahead, but you and Grumpy Humps are a unit now. You fall back into line, her bells jingling, and you're ready for whatever the Sahara throws next. Probably. The caravan's pulse is strong, and you're keeping up. One camel, step at a time. You're nearing the end of the Sahara's gauntlet, and the caravan's buzzing with a new energy. Timbuktu's gates loom ahead, not just a mirage, but a real, sprawling city of mud brick walls and bustling markets. You're trudging alongside Grumpy Humps, her bells jingling, as the desert gives way to dusty streets packed with traders, scholars, and the hum of commerce. The air's thick with the scent of spices and leather, and you're wide-eyed, taking in the chaos of Mali's greatest trade hub. This is where your salt slabs and gold dust become more than cargo. They're your ticket to profit. The caravan leader's barking orders, and you're diving into Timbuktu's markets, ready to make your mark. Timbuktu's no ordinary city. It's the 13th century, and this place is a global crossroads, drawing merchants from across Africa and beyond. A mainstream fact: Timbuktu was a thriving centre of trade and learning, with markets handling millions of pounds of goods, gold, salt, ivory, while its universities attracted scholars from as far as Cairo and Mecca. You're weaving through stalls piled with kola nuts, dyed cloth, and copper ingots, dodging camels and kids chasing stray goats. Your goal's simple: sell your salt and maybe some gold. But the market's a maze, and every trader's got an angle. You're clutching your cargo, hoping you don't get swindled. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Timbuktu traders use cowrie shells as small change. A grizzled merchant, his turban askew, counts out a handful of shiny shells for a sliver of your salt, like it's pocket lint. You're baffled. Shells? In the desert? But you roll with it, pocketing them. Historians still argue whether cowries were just currency or held symbolic value. Were they status symbols or just practical for small deals? You're not sure, but the shells clink in your pouch and you're feeling oddly rich, even if you're still figuring out their worth. The sensory overload's intense. Your sandals slap against packed earth, kicking up dust that coats your throat. The market smells of roasted millet, pungent fish, and the sharp tang of indigo dye. Voices clash in Mande, Arabic and Songhai, with hawkers shouting over each other. You're haggling with a cloth merchant, offering a salt slab for a bolt of bright fabric. He's driving a hard bargain, but you're sharper now, remembering that market tea's bitter focus. One slab,
Final offer, you say, and he grumbles but agrees. You're grinning, tucking the cloth under your arm. Your first Timbuktu deal. Let's be honest, you're overwhelmed. The market's a whirlwind, and you're still a rookie compared to these seasoned traders. You're remembering that griot's tale of a clever merchant who outsmarted a swindler, wishing you had half that wit. A trader nearby's arguing over ivory prices, his gestures wild, and you're glad it's not you in the hot seat. You're also noticing how Timbuktu's different from the roadside markets. Bigger, louder, with a pulse that feels alive. You spot a scholar in a flowing robe, scribbling on parchment, and wonder if he's buying your salt to fund his studies. It's a heady thought. You're finding your rhythm, though. You sell another salt slab for a sack of cola nuts, earning a nod from a woman trader who's been watching you. Not bad, desert rat, she says, and you're beaming, high praise. You're also keeping an eye on grumpy humps tethered nearby, making sure no one borrows your gold. You're joking to yourself that you're one good deal away from retiring to a Timbuktu mansion, but the truth is, you're just happy to break even. The caravan's settling in, traders unloading cargo, and you're part of the chaos, haggling and hustling. You pause to catch your breath, leaning against a mud brick wall. Timbuktu's gates tower above, and you're struck by how far you've come. From the crossroads to this, you pat Grumpy Humps, who's chewing a stray leaf, and whisper, "We made it, girl." She snorts, unimpressed, but you're proud. The market's still roaring, and you're diving back in, ready to trade. The Sahara's behind you, but Timbuktu's just the start of this adventure. You're still in Timbuktu's bustling heart, the market's chaos swirling around you like a desert wind. But now you're stepping away from the haggling to explore a different kind of trade, one that deals in knowledge. Timbuktu's not just about gold and salt. It's a city of scholars where manuscripts are as prized as any cargo. You're weaving through narrow streets, Grumpy Humps tethered safely, to visit a library where traders like you swap goods for books or scribbled wisdom. The air's quieter here, smelling of ink and old parchment, and you're trading a pinch of gold dust for a glimpse into Mali's intellectual wealth. The caravan leader's off somewhere, probably counting his profits, leaving you to navigate this new world of ideas. Timbuktu's libraries are legendary. You're standing in a mud brick room, shelves stacked with manuscripts on astronomy, law and poetry, some bound in leather, others just loose pages. A mainstream fact, in the 13th century, Timbuktu's universities and libraries housed tens of thousands of manuscripts, making it a global hub of learning that rivaled Baghdad or Cordoba. You're holding a small book, its script swirling in Arabic, and a scholar's explaining it's a guide to desert navigation. You're tempted to trade for it, but your gold's running low. Instead, you offer a sliver of salt, and the scholar agrees to let you read it for an hour. A fair deal. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some traders barter with book charms, tiny scrolls tucked into amulets for luck. A wiry scribe shows you one, a scrap of poetry meant to guide the mind. You're skeptical, but you swap a cowrie shell for it, figuring it can't hurt. Historians still argue whether these charms were scholarly tokens or just clever marketing. Did they inspire learning or just pad the scribe's pockets? You're not sure, but the charm's weight in your pouch feels like a small victory, like you're carrying a piece of Timbuktu's brain. The sensory details pull you in. The library's cool, a relief from the market's heat, with dust motes dancing in slants of light. Your fingers brush the manuscript's rough pages, smelling faintly of wax and time. The scholar's voice is soft, his words a mix of Arabic and Mande, and you're catching maybe half of it. Outside, you hear the distant hum of the market, shouts, camel grunts. But here, it's just the scratch of a quill and your own breathing. You're sipping water from your water skin, rationing it, and chewing a cola nut from yesterday's deal. Its bitter kick keeps you alert as you puzzle over the navigation guide. Let's be real. You're out of your depth. These scholars make your crossroads haggling look like child's play. You're remembering that griot's tale of a trader who learned to read stars, wishing you had that kind of smarts. A scribe nearby's debating manuscript prices, his gestures sharp, and you're glad you're not in that fight. You're also noticing how Timbuktu's knowledge trade works. Salt buys you a page, gold buys you a book, and charm buys you respect. You're starting to get why this city's special. It's not just wealth, it's ideas that keep it alive. You're holding your own, though. You trade another cowrie shell for a quick lesson in star names, scribbling notes on a scrap of cloth. The scholar nods, impressed, and you're feeling like less of a desert rat. You're also keeping an eye on your pouch, remembering those bandit scares and not trusting the library's calm. You joke to yourself that you're one manuscript away from becoming a scholar, but really, you're just happy to learn something new. The caravan's still out there, traders bartering, but you're hooked on this quieter trade. You step back into the street, the charm tucked away, the navigation guide's tips buzzing in your head. You pat grumpy Humps, who's dozing by a wall, and whisper, "You'd eat these books, wouldn't you?" She snorts, unimpressed, but you're smiling. Timbuktu's markets wait, but you're carrying a new kind of wealth now. Knowledge, or at least a start. You're ready to dive back into the city's pulse, the Sahara's lessons still guiding your steps. You're back in Timbuktu's dusty streets. The library's quiet, fading as the caravan prepares for the next leg. But before you leave, you're focused on survival, specifically the strange meals that keep you and the traders alive in the Sahara. You're crouched by a market stall, chewing something that's more grit than food, while traders around you barter for provisions. The air's thick with the smell of roasted grains and sour milk, and Grumpy Humps is tethered nearby, munching on a pile of thorny scrub. The caravan leader's haggling for supplies, and you're learning what it takes to eat in the desert, where every bite's a compromise between hunger and endurance. Desert diets are no joke. Mali traders relied on portable, durable foods to survive long treks, and Timbuktu's markets are stocked with the weird and practical. A mainstream fact: in the 13th century, caravan traders ate a mix of millet cakes, dried fish, and cola nuts, with some foods preserved to last months in the Sahara's heat. You're holding a millet cake, dense as a brick, and trying to gnaw through it. It's bland, with a faint nutty taste, but it fills you up. You're also sipping fermented goat milk from a leather pouch, which is sour enough to make your eyes water. It's not your first choice, but it's keeping you going. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some traders swear by eating roasted locusts for a quick protein hit. A wiry vendor hands you a skewer of crispy bugs, grinning like he's offering candy. "Good for the legs," he says. You hesitate, then take a bite. Crunchy, smoky, not awful. Historians still argue whether locusts were a staple or a last resort. Were they a delicacy or just famine food? You're not sure, but you're chewing slowly, partly to be polite, partly because you're low on options. The vendor's watching, so you nod like it's gourmet, hiding your grimace. The sensory details hit hard. Your mouth's dry, the millet cake sucking up what little spit you've got. The market smells of charred meat and overripe dates, with a whiff of camel dung from Grumpy Hump's direction. Your hands are sticky from handling cola nuts, and the fermented milk's aftertaste lingers like a bad decision. Traders shout nearby, haggling over sacks of dried fish, while a woman stirs a pot of millet porridge, her spoon clacking against clay. You're tempted to buy some, but your cowrie shells are running low, so you stick with what you've got, rationing like a pro. Let's be honest, you're hungry, and this food's testing you. You're remembering that oasis date, sweet and perfect, and wishing for a pile of them now. A trader's complaining about stale cola nuts, and you're sympathizing. Your own stash is bitter enough to wake the dead. You're also noticing how meals are a ritual here. Traders share food, passing around milk pouches or breaking millet cakes together. You join in, offering a locust to a kid trader, who laughs and pops it in his mouth. You're starting to get why food's more than fuel, it's a community, even if it means chewing weird desert bugs. You're getting better at this though. You barter a pinch of gold dust for a small sack of dried dates, feeling like a market veteran. You're also learning to pace yourself, chewing slowly like that Crossroads date seller advised, to make every bite count. You're joking to yourself that you're one locust away from starring in a desert cooking show. But the truth is, you're adapting. The caravan's loading up, and you're helping pack food supplies, earning a grunt from the leader. Progress. You're keeping an eye on Grumpy Humps, making sure she's fed, her bells jingling as she chews. You're ready to move. The Sahara's next challenge waiting. You pat Grumpy Humps, whispering, "No locusts for you, huh?" She snorts, unimpressed, but you're smiling. Timbuktu's markets fade behind you, but you're fueled up, ready to face the desert with a full stomach. Sort of. The caravan's rhythm pulls you forward, and you're tougher now, one bite at a time. The caravan's left Timbuktu's clamour behind, and you're back in the Sahara's vast silence, the dunes stretching like an endless challenge. You're walking beside Grumpy Humps, her bells a faint jingle, when you notice the traders growing restless. It's time to prepare for the return journey, and that means mastering the art of packing light while carrying enough to trade and survive. The sun's dipping low, casting long shadows, and the caravan's stopped to reorganize cargo. You're sweating, adjusting salt slabs and gold pouches, trying to balance Grumpy Hump's load without her biting your hand off. The caravan leader's pacing, eyeing everyone's work, and you're determined to get this right. Packing for the Sahara's no simple task. Every item's a calculation. Too much weight slows you down, too little leaves you stranded. A mainstream fact, 13th century Mali traders were experts at minimalist packing, carrying just enough food, water and trade goods to cross hundreds of miles, with camels bearing the brunt of the load. You're paring down your own stash, keeping only the essentials. A sack of millet cakes, a few dried dates, a water skin, and your precious gold dust. The salt slabs are your big trade item for the return, but they're heavy, and you're wincing as you lash them to Grumpy Hump's saddle. She grumbles, giving you the side eye. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some traders mark their cargo with coloured cords to ward off bad luck. A woman nearby's tying a red thread around her ivory bundle, muttering about keeping thieves away. You're not sure if it's superstition or a clever way to spot her goods in a mix-up, but you grab a scrap of blue cloth and tie it to your salt slab. Historians still argue whether these markers were practical or spiritual. Did they deter bandits or just boost confidence? You're not taking chances. That blue cloth's your new lucky charm, fluttering in the desert breeze. The sensory details are relentless. Your hands are raw from coarse rope, and the air's dry, tasting of sand and sweat. Grumpy Hump's fur is hot under your fingers, and her breath smells like chewed scrub. The sunset paints the dunes orange, but it's no postcard. Sand's creeping into your sandals, and your tunic's stiff with dust. Traders are shouting, arguing over whose camel's overloaded, while a kid tosses pebbles to pass the time. You're rationing a sip of water, warm and leathery, and chewing a date for energy. Its sweetness is a brief escape from the grind of packing. Let's be real. You're nervous. The return trip's no easier than the journey here, and a bad pack job could mean losing everything to a dune or a bandit. You're remembering that sandstorm, how close you came to disaster, and double-checking every knot. A trader's cursing as his cola nuts spill, and you're sympathizing. Your own cargo's teetering on Grumpy Humps's back. You're also noticing how the caravan's tightening up. Everyone's focused, sharing tips on balancing loads. You help a younger trader secure his cloth bolts, earning a quick "thanks, desert rat." You're grinning, feeling less like a rookie. You're getting the hang of it, though. You shift a salt slab to even Grumpy Humps's load, and she doesn't snap. Progress. The leader glances your way, nodding slightly, which feels like a medal. You're joking to yourself that you're one good pack away from camel whisperer status, but really, you're just glad to keep up. The caravan's ready, a leaner machine now, and you're falling into line, the dunes ahead glowing under the fading sun. You pat Grumpy Humps, whispering, "Light and tight, girl." She snorts, unimpressed. But you're ready. The Sahara's waiting, and you're packed for the fight. The caravan's deep in the return journey now, and you're feeling the Sahara's weight with every step. The dunes seem taller, the sun harsher. But there's a new challenge, bonding with the caravan as a community. You're not just a lone trader anymore. You're part of a gritty, sweaty family that survived storms, bandits, and bad meals together. Tonight, you're camped under a star-strewn sky, sharing a fire with traders who've gone from strangers to allies. Grumpy Humps is tethered nearby, chewing scrub, while you pass around a pouch of fermented milk and swap stories. The caravan leader's even joined, his gruff laugh a rare sound, and you're realizing this bond is what keeps the caravan alive. Community's the secret source of Mali's trade routes. A mainstream fact, 13th century caravans were tight-knit groups, with traders relying on mutual trust to share resources, guard cargo, and survive the Sahara's dangers. You're seeing it now as a trader hands you a millet cake, no questions asked, and another refills your water skin from his own stash. You're offering up a few dates in return, feeling the unspoken rule. We share, we survive. The fire's warm, crackling with thorny twigs, and you're sitting on a worn mat, your legs aching but your heart full. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some traders carve tiny symbols into their water skins to mark their place in the group. A kid trader shows you his, a crude camel etched with a knife tip. "So we know who's who," he says, grinning. You're tempted to carve a grumpy face for Grumpy Humps, but you settle for scratching a star into your waterskin's leather. Historians still argue whether these markings were practical or sentimental. Did they track ownership or just build camaraderie? You're leaning toward the latter as you catch the kid's proud smile, like he's part of something bigger. The sensory details ground you. The fire's smoke stings your eyes, mixing with the sour tang of fermented milk in your mouth. Your tunic's crusted with sand, and the night air's chilly, making you huddle closer to the flames. Laughter ripples through the group, blending with the camel's soft grunts and the distant howl of a desert fox. You're chewing a millet cake, its grit familiar now, and sipping milk that's less awful with every gulp. A woman trader's humming a tune, maybe one of the griots, and it's weaving the group tighter, like a thread through cloth. Let's be honest, you're tired, and this bonding's both a relief and a challenge. You're still the newbie, and every story, raids survived, deals won, makes you feel small. You're remembering that library in Timbuktu, those scholars who seemed worlds above you, and wondering if you'll ever belong like these traders do. But then a trader claps your shoulder, joking about your city feet from way back, and you laugh, owning it. You're joking to yourself that you're one campfire away from being the caravan's mascot, but deep down, you're proud to be here, sharing the fire. You're fitting in though. You tell a quick story about Grumpy Hump's near bite at the crossroads, and the group roars, the kid trader mimicking a camel's snap. You're helping stoke the fire, passing twigs to a quiet trader who nods thanks. The caravan's a living thing, and you're a thread in its fabric, not just a tag-along. The stars overhead feel closer, like they're cheering you on. You pat Grumpy Humps later, whispering, "We're family now, huh?" She snorts, unimpressed, but you're smiling. The Sahara's still out there, but with this crew, you're ready to face it, one shared millet cake at a time.